The Second Punic War simplified. Seeds of war. As the Roman Republic began to dominate the Italian peninsula, they conquered the Greek speaking people in the south. When they conquered these people, they inherited the rivalry with the Carthaginians, whom the Romans called Punics. The Carthaginians dominated the seas with their navy and had trade routes as far away as modern day Britain. The Romans and Carthaginians were not always rivals, however, and even operated as allies on occasion, but the two eventually faced off over control of Sicily in 264 BC. Over the course of the First Punic War, the Roman navy was able to match the strength of the Carthaginian navy by reverse engineering a shipwrecked Carthaginian vessel, but the Romans weren't able to successfully conquer the Carthaginian homeland in North Africa. After exhausting most of the funds in their treasury and having limited success on land against the Roman army in Sicily, the First Punic War ends in 241 BC, with Rome taking complete control of Sicily and Carthage having to pay war reparations and limiting the size of their navy. With a reduced navy, Carthage invested in its army and started campaigns in Spain to take over resource rich mines, while they were powerless to stop the Romans from taking over Sardinia and Corsica in 238 BC. Hamilcar Barca was an important general in the Carthaginian army during the First Punic War. He was also in charge of the Carthaginian military in Spain. Hamilcar never lost a battle to the Romans in Sicily and felt the Carthaginian Senate gave up too much and too easily. From a young age, he raised his son Hannibal on the battlefield and raised him to hate the Romans, making him pledge that he will be an enemy of Rome and her allies. Hamilcar was obsessed with getting revenge against the Romans, but dies before he can fulfill his desires. Destined for war. In 219 BC, a Carthaginian army led by Hannibal besieged and sacked the city of Saguntum, a Roman ally in Spain. Hannibal and his troops went house to house, killing any Roman man and selling any Roman child and woman into slavery. This makes Rome declare war in spring 218 BC and sends an army to capture and crucify Hannibal. Hannibal realizes that the Roman army is nearly undefeatable outside of Italy, so he decides to take the fight to the Romans instead of waiting for them to get to him in Spain. Hannibal crosses the Alps. Hannibal had approximately 50,000 mercenary soldiers from all over the western Mediterranean, 9,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants at the start of his campaign, but due to not having a proper navy, he had to invade Italy by land. Hannibal attempts to march up the Mediterranean coast, but a large army led by Publius Scipio meets him at the Rhone River. Hannibal decides to avoid this battle and invade Italy through the north via the Alps, where he faces several tribes of Gauls and some join him while others attack him. By the time Hannibal emerges from the Alps and into Italy, he loses about a third of his army, but gets more Gauls to join him as they hated Rome just as much as he did. Battle of the Trebia. Rome sent an army of about 40,000 soldiers to stop Hannibal's force at the Trebia River at the end of 218 BC. Hannibal sent his cavalry to attack the Roman camp early in the morning, which catches them off guard, and the angry Roman commander Sempronius orders his troops to cross the freezing cold river to chase after Hannibal's men. The Roman cavalry, which was heavily outnumbered, was destroyed by their Carthaginian counterparts. The Carthaginian cavalry then circles back and attacks the Roman flanks, which leaves the Romans surrounded on three sides. Hannibal then springs his trap, and 2,000 cavalry, who were previously hidden in the tall grasses of the riverbank, reveal themselves and attack the Roman rear. The Roman center actually pushes through and defeats the Carthaginian center, but when they see that the rest of their army are surrounded and doomed, they retreat. The remaining Roman army is pushed back to the river and annihilated. 30,000 of the 40,000 Roman forces are killed. Battle of Lake Trasimene. The defeat at the Trebia horrifies the Roman Senate, who quickly summons new legions and two commanders to fight Hannibal. These commanders position themselves in two towns, leaving Hannibal to either fight one of them or cross through the swampy marshes of the Arno River Valley. Hannibal does the unexpected and goes through the marshes and slips past the two Roman armies and lays waste to Tuscany, a Roman ally. Hannibal does this to show the rest of Italy what happens when you stay allied with the Romans. This draws the Roman commander Flaminius out to battle. The Romans chase the Carthaginians all the way into a hilly forest near Lake Trasimene. Hannibal then sends a few scouts far away to light campfires to trick the Romans into thinking his main army was much further away. Flaminius sends his forces through a narrow pass between the hills and the lake to where he thinks the Carthaginian camp is. But he doesn't know that the thick morning fog from the lake hides the majority of Hannibal's forces on top of the hills, who then storm down and ambush the Romans, killing 15,000 of the 20,000 Roman forces, including Flaminius himself. Hannibal only loses 1,500 soldiers. Fabian strategy. After another costly defeat, the Roman Senate elects a dictator, Fabius Maximus, to lead the Roman army for 6 months in 217 BC. Fabius looks at the situation and sees what the immense resources of Rome, coupled with Hannibal's dwindling resources while fighting on hostile soil, and decides it's best to avoid direct conflict and to just harass his scouting and foraging parties. Knowing Hannibal was short on supplies, the Romans burn the farmlands around him and attack any troops foraging for supplies. Any town that helps Hannibal feels Rome's wrath and gets punished. Hannibal pleads for more supplies from the Carthaginian Senate, but they don't send any. Luckily for Hannibal, however, the Fabian strategy wasn't popular, as it would take several years to defeat Hannibal like this, and the impatient Roman Senate wanted a show of force with a quick and decisive victory. Battle of Cannae. With Fabius out as military dictator, the Senate elects two new consuls to directly defeat Hannibal in battle. Varro wants to fight Hannibal directly, while Paulus doesn't want to be drawn into a fight on Hannibal's terms. The two consuls change direct control of the army every other day, but Hannibal prefers to fight Varus, and when Varus takes command on August 2nd, 216 BC, Hannibal sends a small strike team to attack the Romans, drawing Varro and his over 80,000 man army out to fight. They line up in a standard infantry line while Hannibal deploys his army in a semicircle bow formation, with the center of the bow closest to the Romans, with Hannibal leading from the center. The two cavalries fight at the flanks of the infantry, with the Carthaginian cavalry eventually winning with a near 4-to-1 advantage. Meanwhile, in the center, the Roman forces think they are pushing the Carthaginians back, but in fact, Hannibal directs the Carthaginians to slowly give up ground until the original bow shape resembles a V. The Romans are now deep in the center of the V, becoming tightly packed together. The Carthaginian flanks then pivot inwards, crushing the Romans from three sides. The Carthaginian cavalry then circles back from the rear, creating a kill box with the Romans surrounded on all sides. 70,000 Romans are annihilated, with less than 6,000 Carthaginian deaths. Since Hannibal's invasion, Rome has lost about 20% of its male population from the ages 18 to 50, but despite its success, Hannibal doesn't have the troops or supplies needed to conquer Rome. Battle of Metaurus. After Cannae, the Romans opted to go back to using the Fabian strategy. Hannibal, confident that the Romans can't beat him in an open battle, continues to plead for supplies and reinforcements so he can fulfill his father's dream and conquer Rome. Finally, in 207 BC, the Carthaginian Senate sent supplies and reinforcements to Hannibal and sent them with his brother Hasdrubal. The Romans, however, caught wind of this and were able to outflank the Carthaginians and cut Hasdrubal off in northern Italy by the Metaurus River, destroying him and his army. The Romans sent Hasdrubal's head to Hannibal, which infuriates him as he previously treated the deceased bodies of his Roman opponents with more respect. This effectively ended any chance of Hannibal besieging and conquering Rome. With Hannibal's army essentially stuck in southern Italy, Publius Scipio was now able to go on the offensive and conquer Spain from the Carthaginians. Battle of Zama. In 202 BC, the Roman Senate granted Scipio the chance to bring the war to the Carthaginian homelands, and he allied himself with the Numidian king Massinissa, who hated the Carthaginians. After this new alliance defeated two Carthaginian armies, the Carthaginian Senate recalled Hannibal from Italy to lead the defense of Carthage. This time, Hannibal was out-strategized by Scipio. With the Numidian cavalry as his allies and prior experience against Hannibal, Scipio was ready. Hannibal sent an elephant charge to the Roman line, but the Romans opened up their formation so the elephants can pass through, making them useless. The Numidian cavalry then destroyed the Carthaginian cavalry and attacked the Carthaginian rear, leading to Hannibal's defeat. Rome stripped Carthage of its land in Spain and made them pay massive war reparations, turning them into a client state that couldn't have more than 10 ships and couldn't declare war without Roman permission, even if they were attacked. For his victory, Scipio got the name Africanus. Hannibal was within 260 miles of Rome, but failed to fulfill his oath to his father. Carthage never posed a threat again, and the greatest threat that the Republic ever faced was neutralized. Hannibal's invasion played a big role in Rome's expansion, as they never wanted an enemy to get that close to Rome and ravage the Italian heartland again, putting them on a path to becoming an empire spanning the Mediterranean and dominating the ancient world. Thank you.